Here are things you care about as a UGA fan. Kirby Smart coaching up and developing players you care a great deal about. Kirby Smart getting high quality players in which to develop. You care about that. We're going to talk about both of those things, recruitment and coaching the already existing players here at Georgia, next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He is Clint. I am Daniel. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day today and every day. Thanks to the loyal 199 third segment listeners who are here, who have the t-shirt. We appreciate you guys a great deal. Today on the show, Clint, we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about when bad news becomes good news.
Just got to invert that thing, okay?
You got to make some lemonade. We are going to be doing our dangdest to make some lemonade on this podcast today.
If anybody knows about you and I, it's that we always see the upside to bad news, Daniel. We always have an optimistic outlook.
I got a bucket nearby just in case things go south in this episode today. But we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about some recruiting news that might be good news for Georgia and bad news for a rival, which is also good news for Georgia. And so let me just spoil it for you. When we talk about recruiting, it's usually good news for Georgia.
It's true.
That's how Kirby likes to do it. So, but first, let's talk about some recruiting success in previous years. His name is Malachi Starks. He's one of the best defensive players in all of the SEC. He is the number one safety in America.
Please let that be known.
And he's hurt himself, Clint.
He has.
It's not great. There's only one thing that can happen in the spring that is upsetting.
And it's this.
You see people getting beat. You see people, those are learning opportunities. Go watch a Kobe Bryant inspirational YouTube video, and you'll learn quickly that when you fail, those are simply opportunities to grow and to learn. And Kirby and the coaching staff are going to make the most of all those opportunities. So when we watch G-Day, we don't care if the wide receivers are crushing the DBs or if the D-line is dominating the O-line. We don't lose any sleep over that because it just means that those groups have the opportunity to learn from that and get better. The only bad thing that can happen in the spring, Clint, is when someone gets hurt, and when that someone is the undisputed best player on your defense who needs, and I don't know how to emphasize that enough, needs all of the best players that they could get in order to significantly improve themselves from last year. The news isn't great coming out of Georgia spring practice, but you're going to try to sell me on the fact that it might actually be good news for Georgia. Please explain yourself.
Here's why. Here's what I'm going to get at. Do you know what you get in Malachi Starks? You just were effusive in who he is. He is the best safety in college football, the best defensive player on Georgia, one of the best players in the entire nation. Doesn't matter a position.
That's right.
He's extremely talented, all-American. This kid has accolades, speed, size, smarts, pop. He has everything. I know what I'm getting in Malachi Starks. He could not practice a single. He won't, because he plays for Kirby Smart, and Kirby Smart loves practice, because that's, you go get yourself beat when you don't practice hard, as he's said recently. But he could not suit up a day of practice, and I know who I'm getting every single Saturday from Malachi Starks. Okay. Outside of him, Daniel, do we know anything about anybody in the defensive back room for Georgia.
Now, let's just do tail of the tape. Malachi Starks, first team all SEC preseason talent. Any of the other safeties back there got those kind of accolades coming their way?
No, they don't. They don't. Nope.
Malachi Starks got 2 full years, 29 games of SEC playing experience coming back. Anybody else in the safety room got that kind of experience coming back other than Thunder Dan Jackson?
Janelle Aguero had in fact, I think, a couple of reps and a couple of games that, if I'm being honest,
I'm going to get the bucket. I'm going to get the bucket.
If I'm going to be honest,
now I will fetch. I knew I needed to have it close, Clint.
Didn't impress me.
We know what we've got, to your point, in Malachi Starks, but we do not know what we have in a lot of these other young players. Again, Dan Jackson being the notable exception to that.
So if that's the case, I get to now have safety position within college football, free safety, strong safety. It used to be back in the day, the John Lynch era, box, not box. Now you see these guys being able to hybrid out all over the place. So stop it with that again. It's like saying pro style versus mobile quarterback. You have to be mobile to be a pro style quarterback. It's one and the same now. Safety position is similar-ish to that. You have to drop down in the box. You have to play the tight end. You have to run on go routes. You have to be able to keep the lid on the back end of the defense. So it gives more reps and more opportunities on either side for these young guys, and for a guy like Ja'Cory Thomas, who by all accounts is really, really sizing up very well. And he's being able to do that in camp so far because guys like Dan Jackson or guys like Aguero, guys like KJ Bolden are able to split many different reps against 3 safety positions. I know the star is not technically a safety because there's only 2, but the 3 safety positions.
There's so much rotation between those 2 positions, right? So, like, Ja'Cory Thomas, Kyron Jones, these guys are repping. Janelle Aguero, another great, these guys are repping at star. These guys are repping back in the 2 safety spots. And so, yeah, I do think it's fair to include all 3 of those positions. And you've got quite a few names of young players, Clint, that really Georgia, like this Georgia staff, Tavares Robinson, Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, and company need to see some things from, and there's going to be a heck of a lot more opportunity to do that now moving forward in the spring, potentially.
That's exactly right. We're going to come back after this, talk a little bit more of why this is important, a couple of other names that we haven't mentioned so far, but first, these. And these are Amazon Fire. Amazon Fire TV is your destination for sports, live games, highlight, in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that lets you plug into the existing TVs and provides access to millions of movies, TVs, episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend baseball or college basketball tournament, you're going to have a fantastic time watching it live on Fire TV.
I've already done that. I've already had a fantastic time.
Many times over, as a matter of fact.
Have and will.
And continue. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro sports leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more. Keep up to date, all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. Daniel, we said that the names are aplenty. We didn't list a few of them, however.
Is it the KJ Bolden segment yet?
Because I really want to get into 2 new faces. I want to get into a Thunder Dan Jackson lookalike in lots of different ways.
That's right.
And then I want to talk about a man who I'm gonna come out and say it, might have a chance to make me say things that I will instantly regret after saying them, and that is KJ Bolden, because Jake Pope and KJ Bolden are crucial. We're going to know a lot in G-Day, and we're going to know a lot this spring camp by those two names because Jake Pope gives us incredible depth. He's an experienced player in the SEC. He's not scared of stuff. His ceiling is not as high as a guy like KJ, but Kirby Smart is going to get the most out of him as possible. And he's going to be important
Mm-hmm.
for rotational
Mm-hmm.
depth, as you've already commented, Daniel. We need these guys. There are three
Yeah.
positions. He's going to find a role within it. And I think he comes in with smarts, with athleticism. It's going to be fun. I really think it's important. But KJ Bolden as well, because if you're telling me that uber talented dudes in the SEC come in and just need more coached up time to learn technique and a back pedal, as well as reading offenses and going up against, I don't know, the best quarterback in all of college football is not going to go ahead and sharpen your sword, make your pencil a little sharper. That's exactly what's happening to KJ Bolden. I can't imagine a better situation for KJ Bolden coming to campus right now, getting every rep he could possibly imagine currently, and therefore having the opportunity to win that other starting safety position. Because Daniel, you said, let me go get that bucket. Zaguero did not. I had very high hopes. Recruitment out of high school, people were very high on him. But if you look back, I didn't see the instant impact. I saw a little bit more cooking time needed for him, a little bit more marination. KJ Bolden, if he comes on and he excites and he impresses from day one, has every opportunity to start opposite Malachi Starks this year from day one, game one at Clemson. Those are the two names that are really, really crucial for me, Daniel, this spring.
Yeah, and I think those two names have the most to gain from this injury. Now, when Malachi Starks comes back, nobody's replacing Malachi Starks. This is not a Stetson Bennett's going to take your job when he comes in and you're not going to be able to get it back. It's not that kind of a situation. And so don't hear us saying that. But I do think the newcomers, and KJ Bolden and Jake Pope are the newcomers to campus of the guys that are heavily in the mix at rotation at safety. And then you got guys like Aguero, like Ja'Cory Thomas, guys like Kyron Jones who have been on campus for at least a year. Some of them sophomores, some of them redshirt freshmen. In the case of Ja'Cory Thomas, he's a full-blown junior. And obviously, you got Dan Jackson, who's 38 years old, who's also back there competing for this job. I think the newcomers, though, to your point, these are the guys that have the most to gain because the reps are going to help them exponentially compared to somebody like Ja'Cory Thomas, who's gone through so many spring and fall and in-season reps. You're going to see that progress. And so for Jake Pope and KJ Bolden, the time is now to really dive in, put yourself out there, learn this playbook, figure out all the checks, all the reads, all the calls, know where you need to be, and then allow your athleticism, your instincts, and your abilities to take over. Because the reason Malachi Starks was able to come on the field as a true freshman and instantly shine is because he knew enough of the assignments. And, oh, by the way, he had a veteran guy standing right there next to him, holding his hand, making sure he was lined up in the exact right spot on every play. And then when the ball was snapped, he said, Malachi, you just go be you.
Just do you, man.
And he did that. If KJ Bolden, if a guy like KJ Bolden knows enough of the assignments and where to be, and he has a veteran guy next to him who's able to help him with that, and then he can just go use his athleticism and ability, I think you could see another impactful performance from a freshman like that. But no matter who it is that comes out, and it's not just two.
No,
we're not looking for two safeties. We're not looking for three safeties.
No, we're not.
We're looking for 4, 5, 6 guys who can all contribute at any of these three positions. And so it's good for everybody. The overall water line goes up in the UGA defensive back room because of this injury. Now, all of that is contingent on the fact that this is a very short term, very easy, very simple, very quick recovery for Malachi Starks, and he's going to be fine, guys. It's important to understand he's going to be fine. If it sounds like I'm just telling myself that to make myself feel better, it's going to be fine. Don't worry.
If I know anything, shoulders are not important to the tackling aspect of tackle.
No, you rarely use them. You want to lead. Well, you want to lead with the crown of the helmet, and then you don't want to bring your shoulder into it till later.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, this I think just the analogy, or not the analogy, but the parallel between a Christopher Smith type player and Malachi Starks and what they were able to do in that combo. Now flip that and put the names in different order. Now KJ Bolden comes in that scenario because Malachi saw the field because he's obscenely talented. And he was not perfect. That's why he wasn't trusted with a lot of the coverages that Christopher Smith was. Christopher Smith was all over the place, knew where to go at every single time. But if KJ Bolden is just told around, if he's on the side, if between CJ Allen and Malachi, they're able to get him exactly where need be, his talent is going to take over. I'm not concerned with that at all. I'm not concerned with a tight end beating it, because this guy is everything you want out of a present day safety, present day, not only enforcer, but guy who roams in the backfield as well. I'm thrilled for it. Couldn't be more excited. We're going to come back after this. We're going to talk about a couple names that Kirby Smart is hot on the trail, looking to get commitments, as well as Flip from over there with Caliente Caitlin, as I'm going to call him from here on out. But first, These are, in fact, FanDuel. Daniel and I love FanDuel, and you should too, because we like making the monies.
Yes, the monies.
That's what it is. We like sportsbook, and the sports calendar is loaded with FanDuel right now, making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because now, new customers,
what a time in sports right now, y'all.
We got Masters coming up. We got Braves baseball going
The Final Four is this weekend.
We have
the NBA playoffs start later this month. Like, there's just so much going on.
Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet for a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Clint, Kirby is at it again. We've got some guys. We got some guys announcing, setting commitment dates that Georgia is in on, and then Caitlin Clark. I'm sorry, no. Caitlin DeBoer. I get him confused.
One of them is really, really good.
One of them's really good at what they do.
Correct.
That's right. But we're talking about Caitlin DeBoer, the coach at Alabama, who Alabama's got to recruit, and maybe they're not going to have him for that much longer.
Anthony Rogers is currently committed to the Crimson Tide.
Well, then Kirby probably stopped recruiting him because he already made his commitment, right, Clint? That's
because
works.
If I understand how recruitment works, it's you give your word to somebody, and your word is your bond that can never ever break.
We had a pact. We shook hands. Oh man!
Look, sometimes in this field, you have to really, really, really make yourself committed to your craft. And if you stray at any point, you're done.
Sure.
But what if I was to tell you, I won a bet? I'm fine. I got this thing on lockdown because my word is my bond. Anthony Rogers gave his word, his bond to Alabama that he'd come play there, but nothing is guaranteed in recruiting because he is no closer to recruiting and committing to Tulane, Syracuse than he is Alabama, because he is not able to sign and guarantee that he's going to be there enrolled in classes on campus, suiting up for Alabama. Kirby Smart is hot on the trail. of this next cycle recruit, 5'8", 185 from Montgomery, Alabama, class of 2025 out of Carver High. This guy has every single SEC school after him, every single school in America after him. 4-star, depending on where you're looking at, number 6 or 5 in the nation at running back. Top guy, lots of speed, lots of physicality, and he is just 1 foot in the ground and gone with it, Daniel. So Kirby Smart is hot after him. Rumor has it that some people might be flipping some crystal balls soon for Anthony Rogers to decommit.
Boy, you hate to see it.
You hate to see it from the Crimson
Unless
Tide.
you're a Georgia fan, and then I misspoke. You love to see it.
You love to see it. That's exactly right. We have a number of running backs already committed, already in the fold, as well as this year. We have a number of talented freshmen. We just got done talking yesterday about an all-world talent in Dwight Phillips Jr. and his trackability and speed. So we should stop trying to load up on running backs then, Daniel, because we have our allotment quota of 2. And if I know anything, we have the depth chart of 1, 2, 3, and the one guy, he just gets all of them carries. And then you have to wait for him to graduate. And then you come up there as number 2 and you become the number 1. Correct?
Well, the NFL really likes it when you have carried the ball 10,000 times and used up all of your legs before you get to the NFL, because that's what they want, is for you to be totally spent. And that's why you see guys like, Zamir White, who split carries at Georgia. He doesn't really do that well in the NFL. He goes to the Raiders and he doesn't really make a name for himself. Or James Cook, who he split carries with at Georgia, he goes to the Buffalo Bills and he doesn't really do that well. They just don't.
That's what they don't fall off the ledge.
Oh, no, wait. They do quite well in the NFL because they're fresh, because they didn't carry the load in college. You're always going to see that at Georgia. You're never going to see a Derrick Henry at Georgia. It's just not the model. It's just not what you do. Georgia always wants multiple elite backs. And no one in America has done it better. There have been teams that have had a better running back than Georgia before. Often, in fact. But nobody does it better stacking elite running back depth than the University of Georgia. And that's exactly what Kirby's looking to do again.
This guy is all talented. We're excited for that. We're not ready to go ahead and give any understanding of this, but we're going to monitor the situation very, very closely. The other name that
we don't have a crystal ball, by the way. That's not a thing that we do.
Because here's the deal. I hope you all understand what the connotation of crystal ball means, is that no one knows. A crystal ball is a hocus pocus machine used by sham artists to get you to pay them money for them to say things to you. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you, listener?
Also, underrated aspect of my podcasting, since we're here deep in the third segment.
Yes.
I said, we don't have a crystal ball, and I almost made that plural, which would have completely changed the context of the sentence. But I caught myself mid-sentence and corrected it, which is just, I feel like we've grown. I feel like
we've really grown. And if you want to understand what fast twitch is, as opposed to some other things, go back and listen to
that's not what I pulled the audio. That's not what the audio said.
It's not what the audio said at all.
No.
Okay. But a guy who has yet to make a commitment, Daniel, being committed not just by SEC schools, but as well as ACC national juggernauts, is offensive lineman Mason Short, 6'5.5", 305, out of Evans, Georgia, class of 2025. He is set to make a commitment here in the next coming weeks. He has let everybody know that he has a date set. All indications are that it is Georgia. This guy is a big old mauler. I already said 6'5.5", over three bills. And he is, there's no other way, but he's been Cleveland like Mauler Daniel. I know Ben
Ooh-wee.
Cleveland, absolute juggernaut. But it's the reason why guys like Kentucky are so high on him. Kentucky is hot on this trail, as well as Clemson, as well as a number of SEC schools, because they know that when you need to go ahead and get the game going, run game is where it's at. This is another feather in Kirby Smart's cap, a very highly talented recruit that has a lot of room to grow. Besides just the Mauler mentality, has enough finesse in him as well. And it says inside lineman, interior lineman. I don't know if that's going to be his final position, what it's going to be looking like, but we know, you and I know the value of talented linemen, and then figure out where they need to go when they get on campus, Daniel.
Let me tell you, of all the things, this has just turned into a rant about recruiting gurus. So my apologies if your aunt works for a recruiting service and it seems as though I'm disparaging her right now. Of all the things that you should never trust that you read on a recruiting services website, the number one of all those things is which of the offensive line positions an offensive lineman is going to play in college. Particularly, I find, and maybe it's just because this is the only one I follow, particularly when that college is the University of Georgia. I cannot tell you how many times I have read that this particular lineman is a tackle. For example, Ben Cleveland, a tackle, a surefire left tackle prospect. Did not even sniff one snap at tackle. When Jamari Sawyer came in to the University of Georgia, he was touted as the best center recruit that Kirby Smart or that the University of Georgia had ever signed. Jamari Sawyer played zero center in his career at the University of Georgia. In fact, it's the only position on the offensive line he did not play.
Correct.
Do not listen to these recruiting services when they tell you what these kids are going to play. What matters is that you have big, strong, talented, physical, and coachable offensive linemen.
There it is.
Who come to campus, and then Kirby decides, do you need to gain weight? Do you need to lose weight? Do you need to work on this? Do you have the footwork to do this job?
But
do you have the...
Only Kirby had the foresight to know which guys were best positioned in which areas, and he has the ability to do that. I don't know, hundreds of times over, Daniel.
Well, he has no track record, so there's just no way to know if he's good at that or not.
It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell.
We anticipate Mason Short to be a Georgia Bulldog, and where he winds up on the offensive line is where we're going to trust Stacey Searles as well as Kirby Smart and the rest of the staff. This is the Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We will see you guys next time.
See ya.